The text message arrived at 9:17 p.m. on a rainy Thursday, when Lena Harper was eating cold ramen over the kitchen sink because the electricity had been shut off again. Unknown number, one line, 10,000 cash for one night of babysitting, 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., 47 Ravenwood Lane. Do not ring the bell. Enter through the side gate. Children already asleep. Further instructions inside. Reply yes if you accept. Lena stared at the screen until the letters blurred. $10,000 would pay 3 months of overdue rent, clear her final tuition balance, and buy actual groceries for the first time since summer. She typed yes before her brain caught up. The reply came instantly. Bring nothing, tell no one. The gate will be unlocked. The bus stopped running at 10, so she walked the 6 miles in the rain, sneakers soaked through, backpack heavy with nothing but her dead phone and a half-eaten granola bar. Ravenwood Lane didn't appear on any map she'd ever seen. The street sign was missing, just a rusted pole leaning like it had given up years ago. She found number 47 by counting the gaps between overgrown hedges until a wrought iron gate appeared, half hidden under ivy, standing slightly ajar exactly as promised. She slipped through. The gravel path curved through trees so thick, the rain barely reached her. No streetlights, no moon tonight. Just the faint glow of a 3-story Victorian mansion ahead, every window dark except one on the second floor. A soft amber square that flickered like candlelight. Lena's pulse thudded in her throat. She had expected a suburban house with plastic toys on the lawn, maybe nervous parents running late from a gala. This felt like stepping into the first page of a ghost story. She circled to the side gate as instructed. It opened with a sigh. A single red childess umbrella leaned against the wall, dripping, though no one had passed her on the path. A white envelope was taped beneath it. She tore it open with wet fingers. Welcome, Lena. The children are asleep in the nursery, second floor, last door on the left. Do not turn on the hallway lights. Do not answer the front door for any reason. If they wake, read from the blue storybook on the nightstand. Nothing else. We will return at 6 a.m. Thank you for keeping them safe tonight. No signature, no names. Just a second, thicker envelope stuffed with crisp $100 bills, exactly 100 of them. Lena's breath fogged in the cold. She tucked the money into her backpack, zipped it twice, and stepped inside. The side door closed behind her on its own. The click echoed like a lock sliding home. Inside smelled of cedar and something sweeter. Roses left too long in water. Moonlight through tall windows painted silver rectangles across a foyer big enough to swallow her entire apartment. A grandfather clock stood against the wall, hands frozen at 11:11, pendulum still. Portraits lined the staircase, old-fashioned children in lace collars staring down with eyes that seemed to follow her as she climbed. Second floor, last door on the left. The hallway runner muffled her footsteps. Every door was closed except one near the end, spilling that faint amber glow. She passed a playroom, toys lined up with unnatural neatness. A rocking horse paused mid-rock. A bathroom, mirror fogged though no one had showered. A bedroom with an unmade adult bed, one indentation in the pillow, as if someone had lain down fully dressed and never woken up. The nursery door stood ajar. She pushed it open. 3 small beds in a row. 3 sleeping children, 2 girls and 1 boy, ages maybe 4, 6, and 8. Moonlight striped their faces through half-closed blinds. They breathed in perfect unison, chests rising and falling like one organism. A nightlight shaped like a crescent moon cast soft gold across the blue storybook on the nightstand. Lena let out the breath she'd been holding. Just kids. Just a weird, rich family with eccentric rules. She eased the door almost shut behind her, leaving a finger's width so the latch wouldn't click. The rocking chair in the corner looked centuries old but sturdy. She sat, backpack on her lap, and waited for morning. The house settled around her like a held breath. 11:23 p.m. The grandfather clock downstairs suddenly chimed once, deep and wrong, like a warning bell underwater. 11:27 p.m. The temperature dropped 10 degrees in a heartbeat. Her breath fogged. 11:31 p.m. Somewhere below, a door opened and closed, though she had locked the side door herself. Soft footsteps on the stairs, slow, deliberate, barefoot on wood. Lena S. fingers found the blue storybook. The cover was leather, soft as skin, title embossed in letters that hurt to read too long. The Children Who Stayed. The footsteps reached the hallway. They stopped outside the nursery. A shadow passed under the door, long and thin, stretching farther than any human shadow should. Then a woman's voice, soft, sing-song, coming from everywhere and nowhere. Children, Mommy's home. The little boy in the middle bed stirred, whimpered. Lena's heart slammed against her ribs. The doorknob began to turn, slow, testing. She stood without thinking, placed herself between the door and the beds, and opened the blue storybook with shaking hands. The first page was blank. The second page wrote itself in ink that bled fresh and black. Keep reading aloud until sunrise. Do not stop. Do not look away from the page. Their lives depend on your voice. The doorknob stopped turning. The shadow under the door retreated. Lena began to read the words that appeared, voice trembling but steady. Once upon a time there were 3 children who loved the light downstairs. Something laughed, soft and delighted, like it had all night to play. Upstairs, in a nursery that suddenly felt like the only safe place left in the world, a broke art student who had come for one night of easy money realized the job had only just begun. And the children slept on, breathing in perfect unison, while the girl they had never met became the only thing standing between them and whatever was waiting in the dark. The words kept appearing on the page faster than Lena could read them, ink blooming like bruises under her fingertips. She read anyway, voice low and steady, the way her mother once read to her during thunderstorms. The nursery nightlight flickered each time she turned a page, as if the house itself leaned in to listen. And the children promised the light they would never leave its circle, no matter how sweetly the darkness sang. Behind her, the 3 small bodies stayed perfectly still, but their breathing changed shallow, quick, like rabbits sensing a fox. The youngest girl, curls wild across her pillow, whimmed once and burrowed deeper under the blanket. Something scraped along the hallway wall outside, slow, deliberate, nails on wallpaper. Lena did not look up. The book had warned her. Do not look away from the page. At 12:07 a.m., the temperature plunged again. Frost spiderwebbed across the inside of the window, even though the rain outside still fell warm. The nightlight dimmed to a sickly blue. The doorknob rattled gentle, almost loving. A woman's voice floated through the wood, closer now, as if she pressed her lips to the crack. "My sweet babies, Mommy brought you presents." The middle child, the boy with the serious face, sat bolt upright in bed, eyes wide and glassy. "She's here," he whispered. The shadow lady. Lena's heart slammed against her ribs, but she kept reading, words spilling faster. The light wrapped its arms around the children and sang them a lullaby nothing could break. The boy's blanket slid off his shoulders by itself. Cold fingers of air curled around his ankles. Lena stepped between him and the door without thinking, still reading, voice rising. The frost on the window formed words backward. "Let me in." The little girl with curls began to cry soft, hiccuping sobs that sounded exactly like the woman's voice in the hall. The eldest, a girl with long braids, woke too and crawled across the mattress to clutch her siblings. "She wants to take us to Mommy," she said, trembling. "She says Mommy's lonely." Lena's throat burned, but she did not stop. She reached the bottom of the page and flipped it. New words bled across the paper, darker, urgent. "They will try to open the door 3 times. Each time read louder. If the door opens before sunrise, they go with her. If you stop reading, they go with her. You are the circle now. The doorknob turned all the way, this time slow, inevitable. Lena raised her voice until it cracked. The children held hands and promised the light they would stay, they would stay, they would stay. The door stopped a finger's width from opening. Something on the other side hissed, long and furious. The pressure vanished. Silence rushed back in, thick and sudden. The children sagged with relief, curling together like puppies. The nightlight brightened to warm gold again. Frost melted into rivulets down the glass. Lena kept reading, softer now, turning pages that filled themselves with a story about three children who once drew a circle of light on the floor with sidewalk chalk and never stepped outside it, no matter how beautifully the shadows danced. Minutes bled into hours. At 2:13 a.m., every clock in the house chimed backward, 13 slow, wrong notes that made the children whimper in their sleep. At 3:03 a.m., the rocking chair in the corner began to rock by itself, creaking a lullaby Lena's own mother used to hum. At 4:17 a.m., the womaness voice returned, no longer sweet. "Let me in, little ones. Mommy's arms are cold." The door rattled hard enough to shake the hinges. Lena stood, planted her feet, and read like her life depended on it, because theirs did. The light grew brighter when the children believed, brighter when they held each other, brighter when the stranger with the brave voice refused to let go. The rattling stopped. Something heavy dragged itself away down the hall, footsteps fading into the bones of the house. The eldest girl opened her eyes and looked straight at Lena. "You're still here," she whispered, wonder in her voice. "I'm not going anywhere," Lena answered without looking up from the page. The little girl with curls reached out one tiny hand from under the blanket and wrapped it around Lena's wrist. Outside, the rain slowed to a drizzle. Inside the nursery, 4 hearts beat in the same frightened, stubborn rhythm. The blue storybook grew warm under Lena's palms, pages almost glowing. She turned another page and read the new line that appeared like a promise. "The longest night always ends. Keep them until the light finds the window. Then choose." Lena did not understand the last word yet, but she felt it settle in her chest, like a small fierce flame. The house watched. The children slept again, fingers tangled in hers. And the girl who had come for one night of easy money read on, voice steady now, while the darkness outside the circle waited for its final chance. The clock downstairs had just chimed 2 wrong, backward notes when the first knock came from inside the wall. Not on the door. Inside the wall itself, 3 slow, deliberate taps directly behind the children's headboard, like fingernails testing plaster for weakness. Lena's voice faltered mid-sentence. The boy sat up again, eyes wide in the nightlight's glow. "She's in the walls tonight," he whispered. The middle girl began to cry without sound, tears sliding sideways across her temple into her hair. Lena forced the words out louder, turning the page with fingers that would not stop shaking. The light grew arms and legs and wrapped the children so tight that nothing, not even the darkest night, could pull them away. Another knock closer directly behind Lena now, inside the rocking chair. The chair rocked once, hard, though no one touched it. The youngest girl, the one with curls, sat up and opened her mouth in a perfect O of terror. A woman's voice came out of it, sweet, loving, wrong. "Come to Mommy, my darlings. It's time to go home." The little girl's eyes rolled white. She began to rise from the bed as if invisible strings lifted her. Lena dropped the book, lunged, and grabbed the child around the waist, pulling her back down. The girl's body was ice-cold, rigid as a doll. "Stay with me," Lena shouted, voice cracking. "You stay right here." She snatched the book again and read like her life depended on it, because it did. The children remembered the promise. They remembered the circle. They held on to the light with all their might. The little girl went limp in her arms, gasping, "Warm again." Tears poured down her face, but her own voice this time. "Dante, let her take us," she sobbed. "Please, Dante, let her." Lena rocked her, book pressed to her chest with one hand, reading aloud without looking at the page. Now the words burned into her brain. The knocks became pounding inside the walls, under the floor, above the ceiling. The whole nursery shook like something massive circled it, testing for weak spots. The nightlight exploded in a shower of sparks. Darkness swallowed the room. The children screamed. Lena felt cold fingers brush her neck, real, solid, loving in the most horrible way. She screamed the story into the black. "The light is stronger. The light always wins." A new light answered. Not the nightlight, not the moon. The blue storybook itself began to glow soft at first, then brighter, pages turning themselves in her lap, words racing across blank paper in golden fire. The pounding stopped. The cold fingers vanished. The glow spread from the book, filling the nursery with warm dawn light that had no source. It wrapped around the four of them like a blanket woven from every sunrise that ever was. The children clung to Lena, faces buried in her shirt, breathing hard. The glow pulsed once, gentle, reassuring, and the womaness voice came again, but distant now, fading down the corridor like smoke. "Not tonight," it whispered, almost sad. "But I'll be back next year unless she stays." Then silence, broken only by the soft tick of a clock, somewhere resetting itself to forward. The nightlight flickered back on, whole again. The children slept instantly, peacefully, fingers still tangled in Lena-esque clothes. Lena did not sleep. She sat in the rocking chair until the first pale hint of sunrise touched the window. Blue storybook open on her lap, its glow fading to ordinary paper again. The last page now held new words, written in handwriting that was not hers. "You kept them safe. The debt is paid for 1 year. But the circle breaks unless the reader returns every anniversary. Stay and they live. Leave and I take them on the next dark night. Choose before the sun clears the hill." Lena looked at the sleeping children, faces soft, lashes fluttering against dreams that finally looked peaceful. She closed the book gently, pressed it to her heart, and whispered to the empty room that was no longer empty, "I am not going anywhere." Outside, the sky turned rose and gold. Inside the nursery, the girl hired for one night tucked the blanket around 3 small bodies and began to plan how she would explain to the world that some jobs aren't jobs at all. They are callings, and some families find you when you need them most, even if it takes a haunted house and a storybook that writes itself to make it happen. The sun rose fully. The mansion exhaled, content. And in the quiet after the longest night, Lena Harper became something far more than a babysitter. She became the light that stayed. The sun was still only a promise on the horizon when the nursery door flew open with a crash that shook the walls. A man stumbled in, tall, disheveled, suit torn and soaked with rain, blood streaking one side of his face. His eyes were wild, chest heaving like he had run for miles. Behind him, red and blue police lights painted the hallway through the open front door downstairs. He took one look at the children sleeping peacefully, and at Lena standing guard with the glowing book, and fell to his knees. "You did it," he rasped. "You actually did it." Lena-esque voice came out sharp, edged with 7 hours of terror. "Who are you? And what was that thing?" The man looked up, tears cutting clean tracks through the dirt on his cheeks. "I am Elias Whitmore. This is my house. Those are my children." His voice cracked. "And the thing that tried to take them tonight was my wife, or what's left of her." He crawled forward, reaching for the children but stopping short, hands trembling in the air above their heads. "Her name was Clara," he whispered. 3 years ago, the youngest, Mira, was born with a heart defect no surgery could fix. The doctors gave her weeks. Clara, she found an old book in the attic, the blue one you were holding. It promised a bargain. Give the darkness one night a year on the anniversary of the mother's death, and the children would live. Clara agreed. She died the night Mira turned 1. The bargain started last year. He finally looked at Lena, eyes raw. Ivy spent every anniversary trying to break it. Salt circles, priests, burning sage, nothing worked. The only thing that ever kept Clara's shadow out was a living person reading that book aloud all night long. A stranger's voice binds the children to this world. I've hired dozens. They all ran before midnight. You're the first who stayed. Police radios crackled downstairs. Footsteps pounded up the stairs. Elias lowered his voice to a desperate thread. The shadow leaves at sunrise only if the reader promises to return every year. If no one comes back, the bargain resets, and she takes them next time. Forever. He reached into his torn jacket and pulled out a thick folder of adoption papers, trust documents, house deeds, everything already signed, everything already in Lena Harper's name. Stay, he begged, not as a babysitter, as their mother. The money, the house, the accounts, it's all yours. Just promise you'll come back every year and read that book. Promise you I'll keep them safe. 2 officers appeared in the doorway, guns half raised, eyes wide at the scene. Mr. Whitmore, step away from the woman, one ordered. Elias ignored them. Please, he whispered. They've never had anyone stay. Lena looked at the children's faces, peaceful now. Small hands still tangled in the hem of her shirt, even in sleep. She looked at the blue book, now ordinary paper again, its final page still glowing faintly with the single word, choose. She knelt, pressed a kiss to each small forehead, and stood. Don T. want your money, she told Elias, voice steady as sunrise. I don't want the house. I want them to wake up knowing someone fought the dark and won. I'll be back every year, not because of papers, because they asked me to stay. The officers lowered their weapons, confused, awed. Elias sobbed once a broken, grateful sound and bowed his head to the floor. The first true ray of sunlight slipped through the blinds and touched the children's faces. They stirred, opened their eyes, and saw Lena standing over them like a guardian made of dawn. The eldest girl, Rowan, sat up first. You're still here, she breathed, wonder in her voice. Lena smiled, tears falling freely now. I told you I wasn't going anywhere. Mira, the littlest, reached up with both arms. Lena picked her up, felt the small heartbeat strong and steady against her own. Downstairs, police radios went quiet. Upstairs, in a nursery that had survived the longest night, a family of 4 became 5. The blue book closed itself on the nightstand, pages blank again, waiting patiently for the next anniversary. But this time it would not wait alone. The bargain was kept. The circle was whole. And the girl who had been hired for one night walked out into the sunrise carrying a sleepy child on her hip and 3 small hands in hers, already planning the bedroom she would paint sunshine yellow. Some doors, once opened, never close again. The first morning light poured through the nursery windows like warm honey, washing every shadow from the room. Mira's small hand stayed curled around Lena's finger, while Rowan and the middle boy, Finn, pressed against her sides, afraid to let go even though the night was over. Elias stood in the doorway, soaked and bleeding and smiling through tears, like a man who had just been handed back his entire world. Lena looked at the 4 of them and felt something click into place inside her chest, the way a key finally finds the lock it was carved for centuries ago. I'm staying, she said again, softer this time, but the words rang louder than any shout. Not just next year, today, every day. Elias tried to speak and couldn't. He simply dropped to his knees and wrapped his arms around all 5 of them at once. The police officers in the hallway lowered their radios, wiped their eyes, and quietly closed the nursery door to give the new family their first private minute. Hours later, after paramedics had bandaged Elias's cuts, after child services had come and gone with stunned faces and signed papers that weren't needed anymore, after the blue storybook had been locked in a cedar box lined with salt and sunlight, the five of them sat on the kitchen floor eating cereal straight from the box because no one could find the energy to look for bowls. Rowan, the eldest, spoke first. "Does this mean you're our mom now?" Lena S. heart flipped. "If you want me to be," she answered, voice cracking. Three small heads nodded so hard cereal flew everywhere. Mira climbed into her lap and fell asleep mid-chew, milk dribbling down her chin. That was the moment the mansion stopped feeling haunted and started feeling like home. The year that followed rewrote every rule the house had ever known. Lena moved in the same week. She painted the nursery walls the color of sunrise. She turned the dusty playroom into an art studio, where Rowan discovered she could draw portraits that looked exactly like people as souls. Finn built blanket forts big enough for five, and Mira learned to say Lena before she said Dada, which made Elias pretend to be wounded for exactly 3 seconds before he laughed until he cried. The blue storybook stayed locked away, but every evening at sunset the five of them gathered on the back porch and read ordinary books aloud: dragons, pirates, talking animals, because voices were magic, and they never wanted to forget. On the first anniversary of that night, October 31st again, the sky threatened storms, but the house stayed warm. At 11 p.m., Lena unlocked the cedar box, took the blue book in steady hands, and carried it to the nursery where four children waited in a circle of battery lanterns and stuffed animals. She read from the beginning, voice calm and strong. The words appeared as always, golden and new. The light returned, as she promised. The circle is unbreakable now. The debt is paid in full forever. No knocks came from the walls. No shadows. Gathered. The nightlight stayed bright and steady. At 6 a.m., the book closed itself for the final time. Pages blank. Cover fading from deep indigo to the softest sky blue. They burned it in the backyard fire pit at noon, watching the smoke curl upward like a released sigh. Mira threw in a daisy chain. Rowan added a drawing of all five of them holding hands. Finn tossed in the broken piece of the old nightlight. Elias and Lena held each other while the flames turned the last of the darkness into light. The mansion never felt cold again. Years folded into the happiest kind of ordinary. Lena officially adopted the children on a bright spring day when the cherry trees lining the drive exploded pink. Elias proposed the same afternoon under those same trees, down on one knee with a ring he had carved from the cedar box that once held the book. She said yes before he finished the question. They married in the backyard at sunset, barefoot, with 3 flower children and 1 ring bearer who refused to give up the pillow until he got extra cake. The old Victorian filled with laughter, crayon drawings on every wall, bicycles in the foyer, and the smell of pancakes every Saturday. Neighbors who once whispered about the haunted Whitmore place now lined up to drop off casseroles and ask Lena for art lessons. She opened the gates wide and turned the estate into Ravenwood Haven, a home for children who had lost parents or been lost by them. The house that once tried to swallow 3 small souls now sheltered dozens, every bedroom bright, every night full of stories read aloud by someone who understood the power of a voice that refuses to stop. Every Halloween the children, now teenagers and toddlers, and every age in between gathered in the old nursery, now a library, and listened to Lena and Elias tell the true story of the night the darkness came and the light stayed. They left the windows open so the wind could carry the tale farther. And every year at dawn on November 1st, no matter where they were in the world, the original 5 Lena, Elias, Rowan, Finn, and Mira stood on the back porch and watched the sun rise over the hills. They never spoke of bargains or shadows anymore. They only said the same 6 words, soft as a lullaby, strong as sunrise. We chose each other, and love kept its promise. The mansion stood tall and bright behind them, ivy trimmed, windows shining, porch swings swaying with the weight of a family that had been forged in the longest night and tempered in every morning after. Somewhere in the attic, a single blue ribbon, the last remnant of the storybook, fluttered in a breeze no one could explain. But no one was afraid, because the light had come back, just as she promised, and she never left again.